Okay, so we are still on this 8 mindful steps to happiness, right? And we are on the second last one. We are still on the contemplations. So remember last time we talked about contemplations of feelings through Skype. Okay, so with most of you having done the Vipassana, you know what's the contemplations of feelings, because that's the whole practice of Vipassana in the Goenka tradition. But that's not the only contemplation of feelings. Okay, so contemplation of feelings, you can actually also contemplations of emotional feelings as well. So this time we talk about a contemplation which is tightly linked to the contemplation of feelings, and it is one of the very strong foundations that we need to develop. Okay, so remember this. Is it? Can you see? Clear? Okay. So this is contemplation of the state of mind. It's called citta. Citta is the state of mind. And nupassana, that's contemplation, right? Citta nupassana. Passana, that means watching inside. Go inside, reflected inside. And so citta nupassana, that means you're watching your mind inside. So reflection of your own mind. So this is the third of the four foundations of mindfulness. We talk about the first one is the kaya nupassana, that means the bodily contemplations of the body. And then we talk about the contemplation of the feelings. Last week is the vedana nupassana, and now is the citta nupassana. And you can see, actually, the progress is you're moving where? You're moving from the outside, the physical, into the mental, the material into the mental, right? The body, the posture, the breath is actually, is really like here. And then you're moving inward towards the inside. And the mind is actually is not tangible, right? You cannot touch it. You cannot hold it. The only way that you can watch this mind is to feel. So through the feelings, you're actually really watching this mind. Through the feeling of your breath, you are actually watching this mind. Through the feeling of the physical feelings, you are actually watching the mind. So the mind is per se is you cannot actually just watch the mind, because it's difficult to just watch this mind, because this mind is not like a mental organ that we always think, oh, the mind is here, right? When people ask people, where is your mind? And they always think the mind is here, in the brain. The mind is not in the brain. No. When you think that the mind is there, that means when you say that the mind is in the brain, that means you're thinking that the mind is actually a mental organ. It's an organ that's actually sitting in here. No, it's not a mental organ. So you can see this is, and also it's actually not a permanent entity also. It is actually, when you want to watch this state of mind, you actually start to see this is actually a sequence of momentary mental acts, momentary, like this. And it doesn't last very long. Okay, even though you think it lasts long, but it's actually, there are a lot of acts going like this, and maybe similar acts. So that's why you think it is the same. Okay, I tell you, this is actually the most that actually is difficult to talk about citta nupassana, because it's not tangible. So it's very difficult to explain something that is not tangible. You really need to actually understand it through your own experience. Okay, as I said just now, the mind itself is not a permanent mental organ. And it is actually a sequence of momentary mental acts that you can call it a state of mind. So what do you mean? What do I mean by this mental act?
Different thoughts, different perceptions.
Yeah, different emotions, different interpretations.
Different experience.
Experience, yes.
A series of point instants.
Yes, point instances, yes. Very good point instances. So many points. Then when these points are joined together long enough, then your mind will pick up, oh, I have this emotion of anger. Because the anger has, the many points of anger joined together enough for you to actually notice that there is anger. Especially when the awareness is not strong, and you will not pick up the anger when you are angry. Only when you're angry long enough that you can pick it up, because your awareness just come in at that point, because the awareness is not strong to pick up when it arises. Yeah? So it is actually, but each momentary mental acts are very distinct and discrete. And we think that they are the same. They are not. Just like these lights are not the same. But if the fluorescence, when you just turn it on, you can see. If you look at the tubes of fluorescence, and if you turn it on, you can see like, and the whole tube like light up, right? So you see this like instances, points of instances coming, the light up, the whole tube light up. So that's the same with this mind. So it's actually, this mind is actually a sequence of mental acts. So a lot of teachers said it's actually very, very difficult to just watch one particular mindset. Very difficult. Because it comes so fast, and it's gone so fast. Okay, so, and also between the momentary acts of mental acts, each is connected to each other, to the next one, to the next one, to the next one, and there is always a causal effect. Always a causal effect. So there is a cause. That's why they're connected. Okay. So we all know that. And so in this we call this citta. You can actually use the word use the definitions of consciousness. You can actually say citta is consciousness. But some teachers also say there's a whole stream of consciousness, and the chief of this consciousness you can call citta. So if you flip open a dictionary, Pali dictionary to English, you will find all sorts of definitions about citta, which I will give to you later on. And I dug out some of the definitions of citta. So each citta actually is made up of many, many components. Okay, a lot of things that made up a citta. And the chief of this citta is consciousness, which is the basic experience of an object. Remember the basic experience of an object. I look at this and I see this. This is already a consciousness, without any judgment, without any coloring, without any analysis, interpretations, nothing. It's just mere consciousness, but I already know what this is. You see, jumping from this consciousness to judgment is already just like this. Or we already know, because that experience just have his head up, raise his head right there. Once your eye pick up this message, your experience just raise its head, and you already know what is this. So if you can maintain the awareness in just this consciousness itself, in this level, in this state of consciousness itself, wow, that's a great step. That's what we are trying to do. Maintain this bare attention, mere awareness, no judgment, no interpretation, no analysis, no expectations. That's what we are trying to achieve through mindfulness. It's just to be mindful, but not tagging it, labeling it, judging it, interpreting it. Okay? So each chitta is made up of many components, as I said just now. However, the consciousness itself, in Pali terms or in the text, is also called a citta. So this citta can be a name given to the whole part, given to the whole being, like this being, but putting the attention just on the principal part. Maybe like the eye consciousness, but you're looking at this whole body, but this is the eye consciousness. You can call this the eye citta. But where is this eye citta? The eye citta is actually in the main citta. So you have a room inside a big room. Right? Understand? I have difficulty understanding this also until lately I sort of find out or understand through my own experience the mind in the mind. The mind in the mind. We are actually observing our mind in the mind. So this is a small room in a big room. So the eye citta and the eye consciousness, the ear consciousness, but the chief of this whole consciousness is this citta. Okay? Yeah.
I don't know if this will make sense. I've tried to explain it to different people. You have an intent to sit an hour. So whatever you experience in that hour, you observe.
Yeah.
And you have different experiences.
Yes.
And you're trying to maintain a mindfulness.
Yes.
But when this hour is done, the intent is the mindfulness, not what you've actually experienced. Do you sort of know what I'm
The
trying to
intent
say?
is the mindfulness, but not what you experience. Understand? Yes. The intent is really mindfulness. That's why...
Because the intent is what becomes the mindfulness. You're staying for an hour.
Yes.
It doesn't matter what happens.
Yes.
You're not moving for an hour.
Yeah.
So you experience feelings or
Yeah.
thoughts or whatever.
Yeah.
You're trying to be mindful.
Yeah.
At the end of the hour, the intent is the mindfulness.
Yes. 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 But it's very difficult to explain.
Yeah.
Only when people are actually meditating, then they will know what you're talking about. Otherwise, they won't know what you're talking about. What's the intent? Is the mindfulness? What? The intent is really to be mindful. But when you are mindful, actually your intention is already achieved. But through the intention, you're actually experiencing. Okay, it's a whole sequence of things.
I'm wondering whether it is the intention or the attention that one can call mindfulness.
But you have to start with intention to be mindful first before you can become attentive. If you don't have that intention, well, that intent is, I feel that is quite different from the intention.
Would it be more specific to say that the intention is to maintain detached observation?
Yeah, the detached
watching.
observation that there is a factor of equanimity in it. The detached attention, there is an observation. Detached observation, there is a factor of equanimity in it. I think the intent to be mindful is something that your mind tends to behave. The intention is sort of like I want to be good, but you won't necessarily be good. But the intent to be mindful is I am doing it already.
The intention has a scale.
Of course, yes.
The intent doesn't.
Yeah. The intent doesn't. So this intent thing is difficult to actually put into words. But yes, at the end of the hour, that intent is just like a goal that we put out, right? A purpose. The purpose.
Be almost like walking back the intention, or the intent is to get from point A to point B, and you're walking down the road. What happens as you're walking down the road is really, as long as you're paying attention, is really irrelevant. It's just, you got from point A to B, how you actually got there really isn't the journey, as long as you were paying attention.
As long as you're paying attention and not being distracted.
Or judgmental as to which paths you took to get there. Kind of, sort of.
Yeah.
It's a hard thing.
It's a hard thing to explain, yeah.
Because the intent to me develops.
Yes,
Yeah.
because it's the intent that is actually helping you to maintain that consciousness. I mean, that maintain the awareness throughout the day. It's that intent.
It's a part of the mind that develops.
Yes, it becomes a quality of the mind already. It becomes a natural quality of the mind. You don't really need to specifically think, oh, I needed to do this. That is an intention. But with this, it's already becoming sort of like a habit already, a new quality of the mind.
I think the main component of it is non-reaction, non-judgmental.
Yeah. That's the
when
mere
you
attention.
stop this is the only way for this to develop.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
pretty soon it's like you say, it's there and you don't even realize it.
Exactly. Yeah, this is a very deep subject. Very deep. That very difficult to put into words. So difficult because it's the mind, right? Okay, so that's what the chitta is. So, and then along with this consciousness, this eye consciousness, ear consciousness, every chitta actually contains a set of concomitants we call chitta sikas. Some more words. Okay, so these are the mental factors. This is actually made up in the chitta. So the chitta is the big house, where in this big house inside there are many of these chistikas. Okay, it's the mental factors. So the state of mind, the whole state of mind, actually is composed of chistikas. Okay, composed of mental factors inside there. So these include what? These include like feeling, perceptions, volitions, emotions, all those, okay? Interpretations, all the mental functions, except the primary consciousness. That means, yes, I see this. When you see this, this is the primary consciousness. When you start to say, oh, this is a stick, then that becomes Jessica's, because you start to interpret. Okay? So it's the mental factors inside the state of mind. Right? You still there? So he said, huh?
So is that the same as Dhamma in the next factor then?
What?
Would that be the same as how would that be different than Dhamma? Or Dhamma in the next foundation?
Dhamma is different. Dhamma is the content of the mind, or the content of the universe, or the teachings of the Buddha. It depends on which aspect you're talking about Dhamma.
The first aspect.
What do you mean by first aspect?
How would mental factors be different than mental contents? Or what is the difference between mental factors and mental contents?
Mental factors, there are actually mental factors. That means you have a discriminating mind. You have a discriminating mind in this mental factor.
Attributes.
And if with perception, you can have like a pleasant perception, unpleasant perception. And with feelings, you can have a pleasant feeling, you can have an unpleasant feeling. So this mind will discriminate, right? This mind will discriminate between this and that. Okay?
Yes.
So this is called the mental factors. Anything that arises besides the primary consciousness is called chasikas, is called the mental functions.
I think we have a problem in society today with the word discrimination. It's completely sort of criminalized. You know? I mean, I remember a teacher saying to a group of youngsters one day, as we grow older, we should develop a fine discriminating consciousness.
Criminalized, yeah. Yeah, it's true, criminalized. Okay, so the citta is, what is the citta? It's actually the bare experience of just an object without any discrimination, any judgment, any tagging, any labeling. Because the citta cannot be differentiated from its own nature, so it can be only differentiated by way of its associated factors. That means the chasikas. Okay, because the chasikas in the Dhamma is that the chasikas actually color the citta, and because it's colored, it has colored the citta. So the citta actually becomes like, you can feel it, you can watch it, you can observe it. Okay, observe it not like you can see this chasikas with the eye. No, but you can feel it, right? So it actually color the citta, so it gives it another appearance. So you can actually see it because it becomes an indicator that you have such a citta in your mind right now. So it sounds very, 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 yes?
Shouldn't it be like this? Because the primary consciousness, right, like you said earlier, is like a room.
Yeah.
And then you take all the
Chittas.
and you also stuff them now in that room.
Mm.
But they're all part of the room.
Yes.
They're all individual, they're all part of the room. So they're almost like little embryos that are totally clear and still all connected,
Mm.
so that it still all becomes one.
Yes.
And then you still add other factors into all those tiny little chittas, which still
You
are
can
clear.
see
You
what
can
kind of
still see,
embryos
and
they
they're
are.
all still all connected, so it's like a big bowl full of, I don't know, like jelly in a room that is still
All individually.
all individual,
independent.
It all becomes
Yeah.
one. But you can take out all the little pieces, but you cannot take out the room. It'll always. Well, because
Yes.
you said earlier, like other
Yeah.
than primary conscious,
Yes.
right, it's not part. All of the other stuff are part. All the other little embryos are part of.
No,
But you can't-
the primary consciousness
can't
is
go
also
back.
part of the chitta,
Okay, so you can kind of take it back.
because the primary consciousness is not colored,
Okay.
but the primary consciousness is so actually the existence of primary consciousness is so minute that the time is so short. Even a flicker of moment is too long to actually address. So that actually really that's the pure chitta. That's the pure mind, the primary consciousness. But once that starts to be colored, then it becomes different thing. Right? Yeah? This is all, yeah?
Primary consciousness is bare perception without
Yes.
interpretation.
Yes, yes, yes. So it's actually, sometimes you can realize it yourself. I'm just watching. But once you start saying that I'm just watching, you already turn that primary consciousness into something else. Right? Oh, there is this anger. Oh, you already turned that primary. Yeah. So it's very tricky, very tricky. So the Buddha said there are actually 16 kinds of chitta. I tried to find out where that comes from. I couldn't find it out. Where literature it came from. I couldn't find out. That's what Bhikkhu Buddhist said. 16 kinds of chitta. But they are all spread. They're all spread, over in all the nikayas. One sutta can talk about one chitta, and the other sutta talk about the other chitta. But in order to find the 16 kinds of chitta in one sutta, I cannot find it. I think I need to find another teacher to tell me where do they come from. Otherwise, I don't know where they come from, and I don't really trust this, if I don't know where it comes from. So, but anyway, we will talk about this tonight, and I'll see if I can find it somewhere else, or somebody can help me with this. So there are, Bhikkhu Bodhi said, there are 16 kinds of chitta. There is this mind with lust, and the mind without lust. So when the mind with lust, you know what kind of mind that is. That is the mind with a lot of craving, right? So the craving actually is the chasikas that color the chitta. Understand now? Very clear now, okay? So the mind without lust, that means at that time there is no craving. There's no such craving. And then, so the chitta is not being colored by this craving. So that mind is without lust. That chitta is pure at that time. Okay? So let us look at these few sets first. So and then the mind with aversions, and then the mind without aversion. So when there is aversion, that means you may have anger, you may have ill will, you may have animosity, right? Or you may have a lot of irritation, agitation.
Fear.
Huh?
Fear.
Fear? Yeah. So when fear arises, then that fear is the little room inside the big room. Right? That little room is the chasikas. And then because of seeing this fear, then in the back of the mind, you may have some aversion, then, or if there is no animosity, no feeling of ill will, then you know that mind doesn't have any aversion. So these are all the indicators. So the mind with delusions and the mind without delusions. And he said it's a cramped mind. That means it's a very tight, compressed mind, or a very scattered mind. A very scattered mind, that means the monkey mind. So all those wandering thoughts that when you sit down there and you observe all these wandering thoughts, those are the indicators of how your mind is. You cannot observe that chitta, but you can observe those monkey thoughts. And because of those monkey thoughts, then you know that your mind is wandering.
So, Sifu, in this example, is cramped the same as calm?
Yeah. I think so. But he used this word, so I use this word. So calm and maybe calm and focused. Yeah. So you know whatever that you feel in your mind at that moment is tell you what is really the nature of your mind at that moment, right? And the developed mind and the undeveloped mind. Right? Development, that means you are very steady, you are very grounded. Okay, the undeveloped, that means you're not steady, you're not grounded. And the surpassable mind and the unsurpassable mind. Okay? The concentrated mind and the unconcentrated mind. So through these 8 pairs, they are actually not 8 pairs, there are 16 kinds, but I just put them into pairs. So when you look at all these, you see, these actually have something always in there that tells you when you have a very concentrated mind, you know that there is a very strong focus there, right? And that strong focus, because you're seeing things, you're watching your breath, and the breath becomes your mind becomes very focused, and your breath becomes one-pointedness, and that one-pointedness. That feeling of that one-pointedness is actually telling you your mind is very focused at that moment. It's difficult. It's actually, they say it's not easy to observe the mind, but it's easier to observe the chisikas. So because it's an indicator of how your mind is. All right, you still with me? It's a serious subject. It's not easy. So when this a particular chitta is present, we actually just watch it the way it is. And when we are just watching it the way it is, because we know that is just a state of mind. Okay, this is just a state of mind. At that time, if you're just paying attention to whatever that is without any judgment and anything, that means you're not identifying yourself with this chitta. And this chitta doesn't belong to me, and this chitta is not me, and I'm not this chitta. You see, when you can do that, that means you are actually going into that anatta, the no self or the not self, because you're not identifying whatever mental state or the state of mind at that time with a self. It's just mere awareness, just bare attention. There is who are you? Where are you? What are you? Right? So that bare attention has a way of really teaching us how to become detached. It's just sit there and watch, sit there and feel, sit there and experience. And you won't start to judge. Is that, oh, this is a pleasant experience. Oh, this is a very unpleasant memory. When you start to label this a pleasant experience or unpleasant memory, that means you are already out of this pure consciousness. You're already into this judgmental part of the state of mind. Okay? Yeah?
I think for myself to develop that, one of the easiest, or one of the first places I experienced it was through the breath.
Yeah.
Because you can observe your breath without breathing.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
If you can develop.
Yeah.
That you can develop more and more.
Yeah.
And more.
You don't necessarily have to observe that breathing thing, but there is this, the breath could be so subtle that you think that you are not breathing, but you still can observe the breath. And of course, we all know the breath doesn't happen just here, right?
What I meant though is you're still breathing.
You're still breathing, yeah.
But you can observe the breath without breathing, because when you observe your breath, it's quite hard to tell your mind, don't breathe. Do you know what I mean? The automatic breath,
yeah,
I guess is what I'm trying to say. You can start to observe the
automatic
body's automatic breathing without
Yeah.
having to breathe.
Yeah, yeah. Without intentionally trying to breathe.
Right. And then some of the other states come about. But that's why I think the breath is such an important tool. Everything leads from the breath.
I tell you, when the Buddha became enlightened, that night actually he was using the breath. It's just the breath in the fourth jhana. And that's why there are, if we want to talk about the Anapanasati Sutta, we can talk about that, because there are 16 steps on Anapanasati. That means the observation of the breath, 16 steps. And the final step is the enlightenment. It's only the first few steps you are actually watching the breath. But after that, you start to develop piety. You start to develop equanimity. You start to develop joy and all that. It's all within that breath. So that's why in the Theravadan tradition, a lot of monasteries, they actually just use the breath. They don't use any other things. They don't use Vedana. They don't use feeling. They don't use the state of mind, the citta. They don't. They just use the breath. And the breath is enough to bring you to enlightenment. Because when you observe the breath deep enough, strong enough, you're actually observing everything. Because once you stay here, and the whole body can be felt.
Everything else just opens up.
Yeah, the whole body can be felt just right here. When the breath, when you work with the breath, good enough. So, and I completely agree with some of the Theravadan tradition is they work with Anapanasati, and a lot of people think, just working on Anapanasati, they think, oh, this is a second-class meditation. They don't know. The Buddha actually reached enlightenment with this. Oh, they know. It's not right that they don't know. They know. But they think that they really need to do this, they so-called vipassana. But, sorry.
No, I'm sorry. I was just going to say, I think people just want to keep things complicated. Like it just seems to be in our mechanism. This is really simple, but let's see if we can make it more difficult, more complex, and a lot of things really aren't.
I think different methods, if they lead you to the goal, there's so many different people. It has to have different techniques that may not work for a group of individuals or a karmic group of individuals.
Well, a lot of people cannot work with Anapana, but a lot of people cannot work with Vipassana. So that's why the Buddha was so kind to present all those teachings, because we all need something else. We all need different things. I love working with Anapana myself. I just love it. And I felt that Anapana actually gave me a little bit, actually a little bit more extra bit myself. So it depends. It depends, okay. But with Anapana, if you can really work with Anapana, really strong Anapana, that self-reflection, that introspection could be as strong as any vipassana. And it naturally goes into vipassana anyway. What is vipassana? Vipassana is insight. And because you have such a strong samadhi, strong ground of concentration, that insight naturally comes. You naturally understand. What is insight? That means you start to see things from inside. And when the mind is so calm, it starts to reflect itself. So easily, so naturally. Okay?
So simple.
Yeah, so simple. Don't make it too don't make it too complicated.
Sister, I saw an ad once for a holiday place in the Catskills in the States, and they claimed that they had the wettest water anywhere.
Really? It sticks to your skin?
I worried at that like a dog with a bone for
the wettest water ever. Oh.
Must have been a Buddhist.
Must have been, yeah. So when we actually start to watch this citta with this pure consciousness, as I said just now, we don't identify as I or mine or me. So there is nothing that belongs to me, and there's really not really me. My me is just this combination of factors that's come together that make me the me that I think I am. So whether it is a pure state without lust, or whether it is a defiled state with lust, that's the way it is. And all we need to do is, we don't need to become too elated when it's really, without lust, I don't have any lust. Don't get too depressed when you have said, you have lust. That's not the way it is. I mean, the whole mindfulness is you just watch it. Yes, there is lust coming. That lust doesn't belong to you. It just comes. And you watch it. And you watch the indicators. Okay. And then you keep watching. And just because you keep watching, that there is a possibility of it fading away. But if you stop watching and you start to react, then you start to multiply that defilements, that old habits, and making new defilements, okay? So by maintaining a very clear observation and recognition of that state really lead you to really calmness and equanimity. Okay. So remember this, just simply noting, simply knowing is what mindfulness is. Okay, it's not starting to point finger and painting it with this color and painting that with that color, judging and all that. No, that's not mindfulness. Okay, so when you start to judge, then it's really not mindfulness. I had an experience last week, and it really took out a lot of my energy, and I started to judge somebody. And right at that time, I knew that I was judging, but I just couldn't stop me judging. It couldn't stop. I just couldn't stop, and he kept judging, and everything that I heard and everything that I saw, it was so unpleasant. The whole body was so heavy, and I still go on judging. It just went on, and the whole experience was so devastating, was so damaging, really damaging, and it really took a lot of energy out of me. Really did. And I think it's a good lesson to learn. It's a wonderful lesson, to really dawn on me. It's, come on, wake up. You're still not very good. You still have a lot of work to do. Go, do work. And it hasn't happened for a long, long time. And that was really strong. And I think it's just something that actually arose on my mind that I did not really catch it. And then all these external things started to light fire. And then, forest fire in Hong Kong, forest fire, not Canada, forest fire. So, that's what it was. So, remember, please take my words, just simply noting, just simply knowing, okay? And when this contemplation start to really deepen, and the contents of the mind will become rarefied, okay? And it becomes rarefied, and you get more and more focused. The mind becomes more intently aware. Intently aware. You don't have to have an intention to be aware, but it comes by itself. That becomes an intent. That's what Paul. I was going to talk about that. I knew when you said that. I said, that sounds so familiar.
Funny thing.
Yeah. So you become very intently aware, and you're just watching the whole process of your own becoming. You're becoming something else, and then you change. You're becoming something else. You change. You become something else. You're just watching, and you don't try to fix it. You don't try to figure it out. You don't try to stop it. You just watch it. Unless it's becoming very unwholesome, then it's about time to really pull yourself back and stop that unwholesome thought from multiplying. Yes.
I think this is where the Vipassana can help, because instead of rolling in the thought,
you come back to the physical
sensation you're having with the thought.
Yeah.
And
it's safer.
You don't have to keep writing the story.
Yeah. It's safer. Yeah. And that's what the breath can be useful also, because it's so tangible.
Well, you can use the breath to focus the sensation.
Yeah. Because it's so feelable. You can actually feel it. You can experience that. That's easier than rolling into the thought.
Because it's hard to stop the monkey.
Very difficult to stop.
Yeah.
Very difficult to stop. Yeah. So, okay. So sometimes you think that you are outside yourself to observe. You're actually an observer outside. No. When you observe long enough, that observer in the outside becomes yourself. In the beginning, you feel that there is an observer outside. You become an observer outside. But when that practice becomes deep enough, then there's no outside, no observer outside. It's always in there. Yeah? You experience that? Yeah.
I put it all together after we talk.
Yeah. So, yeah. So when you become very deeply, aware, that mind becomes very solid and stable. Okay, and you will notice, when you sit there and watch, or when you stand there and watch, you notice these streams of chittas coming, streams like flowing, like you see the river, bringing down the leaves, and that leaves keep coming, coming. You see these thoughts coming. And then when one time, then you will start to see, impermanence. Right there. Just when the streams of thoughts becoming so fluid? No, your mind becomes so clear. Your mind becomes so clear, and the stream becomes so obvious. That stream of thoughts becomes so clear, and you're so clear. You just watch it. It's coming and going. There is nowhere. It's not going anywhere. It's not coming from anywhere. It's just coming, go. Where does it come from? Where does it go? You want to find a place where it comes from, you can. You want to find a place where it goes to, you can't. It just arises, it just passes. Just arises, just passes. It's amazing. It's amazing. Okay? So you just keep watching. Remember, just keep watching, all right? So I have some definitions for you about citta. I look up on the site called Sutta Central. It's a website. Mainly, they put out parallels of the Pali Nikaya with the Chinese Nikaya and also the Tibetan Nikaya. But most of them are Chinese and Pali. And sometimes there are Sanskrit too. So Chitta, and they said it's actually there are a whole bunch of Chitta things. But I just pick out this semantical applications. That means you can actually explain them in words. Okay, so they call Chitta a heart. In Chinese we call the Chitta a heart. But in English we call Chitta the mind. So actually the mind and the heart are interchangeable terms. Not synonyms.
Synonyms.
Huh?
Synonyms.
Synonyms, not synonym. Synonyms, yeah. This is a very difficult word. Okay, so this is the heart is as a general status of like sensory or emotional being. So it's relation to the senses. So there may be a steadfast mind, a constrained mind, and then you can control over the senses. It means that the heart is actually well controlled and well guarded. Okay, because a controlled mind and a well guarded mind will bring a lot of benefit. Okay, so an unbalanced mind, that means from the fetters of Mara. So we become very engrossed into the Mara thing, and so the Mara actually control the heart. That means control the mind. Okay, so the first definition it gives is this, and the second definition is that when you contact with kama that means lust and raga, anger. Okay, so when you have contact with kama and raga. When you contact with kama, that means you have a lustful, worldly craving, citta, right? And when you contact with raga, that means you have a very defiled heart, really engrossed in, and all these defilements. And these defilements actually harasses the heart, the mind.
That's interesting because in Margaret, is that also a way of talking about rage, anger?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I find in Greek the word porno in terms of pornography means anger.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Anger with the spirit.
Well, it could be because you see, with pornography or with anything like this, when you don't get it, when the craving is not fulfilled, you will start to have anger. You start to get agitated, irritated. I don't get it. I want it. I don't get it. I want it. Right? So anger comes after this craving. All right? So the third definition they said is a heart composed, concentrated, settled, self-control, constrained, mastered. Just like what we had just now, right? So this heart is full of grace and settled. And this heart is endeavored and striving. So this is a very diligent heart, a very gracious heart, in this sense. A very diligent citta. But also it can be an evil heart, which is a heart that fills with a lot of lust, a heart that fills with a lot of anger, and a heart that is very unsettled, a heart that is not developed, a heart that is not free. Okay, so you can have an angry heart. That means that citta is filled with so much evil thoughts. And blessed are the pure heart, it says, a pure and clean, purified, emancipated, free and detached heart that brings a lot of happiness. Yeah, and also. Good heart, loving kindness and diligence. We know this is talking about metta, right? The great compassion. And of course, the tenderness, and like in Christianity, they always say love your Lord with the heart, right? Love the Lord with your heart. So the heart, in this sense, is a very loving kindness heart, a very diligent heart, and this normally, coming hand in hand with metta, and the metta actually nourishes the heart, and the metta also nourishes others' heart, right? And then calm, allayed, and passionless. Okay, this is easily understandable, and a willfully heart, ready and prepared for truth, and with open and receptive mind. So with this mindfulness of the state of mind, no matter what this mindfulness develops, is used to watch our mental states arise and pass away. And we watch the greedy mind, we watch the non-greedy mind, we watch the hateful mind, we watch the loving mind. We just watch it without any judgment. So when you start to watch it, you start, as I said just now, you start to notice that it comes and it goes. And along with this state actually comes and goes along with the consciousness comes and goes. Okay? So it is actually impossible to separate the mind states with the consciousness. But it's possible that you watch it. You watch this whole thing to arise, the whole emotion to arise, the whole experience to arise. That means you're actually watching the mind. So as I always say, when you are watching your breath, you're actually indirectly watching your mind. When you feel that the breath is changing, that means your mind, there's something's changing in your mind, right? For example, when you feel the body, and when their feelings are changing, that means your mind is changing. So at this time, if you feel that your body is sort of like subtle and there's no like waves of heat or whatever, that means the mind is quite calm and stable. But when all of a sudden you feel this surge of heat and whatever, that means there is something happening in the mind. You may become nervous, or you may become angry, or you may become worrying, all sorts of things. So you're watching this, you're feeling this, and actually indirectly you're watching this citta. Okay? So when they arise, you give them attention without doing anything specific about it, without trying to stop it or trying to figure out, trying to fix it. You just simply watch. The more you observe, when the mind peaks, when it falls, the more volatile you know these thoughts are. And seeing this volatility, you actually gain insight into the impermanency of these thoughts, of the mind. It is not easy, but it is doable. Okay? So why don't we just try to watch it rather than trying to control over it? But we always fall into this habit pattern of trying to control this mind, trying to stop this mind from thinking, trying to stop this mind from reacting. You don't need to do anything. You just watch it. When you watch it, you're actually not feeding it. But when you're trying to do something, you're actually feeding it. Yeah? Right? So use this mind to gain wisdom rather than to gain pain, to gain happiness rather than to gain sadness. Okay, the mind could be very strong if we use it in the right place, but it could be very strong when we use it in the wrong place too.
Is there a place in what you're saying of mindfulness of cittas? Is there a place for metta?
Metta.
Just a bit of metta. Just
Yeah.
Okay, it's okay. This is
Yeah.
mine. I can accept it. I can.
Yeah. Even though you don't need to tell yourself that I can accept it. But when you notice that the difficulties become so overpowering, and this is a challenging situation, then you right away you can generate some loving kindness for yourself. It's okay. That's okay. It will soon pass. Of course, there's a place because citta, Metta is in the chitta, right? Metta is actually a quality of the chitta at some point. You can generate that quality anytime. Yeah? So, the chitta is something really, really fun in the Buddhist teachings. And it's so deep, but it's so profound. And it actually explains to us why we are like this. Without this whole explanation, we wouldn't understand why we are like this. Right? So we don't want to blindly believe in things, then we need to understand this chitta.